Good morning, everybody, and welcome to this event with Qlife. Remember, we record this event and you can find the event on our webpage later today. With me today, I have the CEO, Thomas Warthoe, and the topic for this event is, of course, the recently announced hybrid partnership status from Friday, the the rights issue, the upcoming rights issue, and of course also some explanations to the recently announced full year report. Some practical issues, as always. You are more than welcome to post your questions during the presentation. You do that below the video window here, and I will forward the questions to Thomas after the presentation. So with that said, let's carry on. Welcome, Thomas, and please.
Yeah, thank you for that, Klaus, and thank you to everyone listening in. This presentation is an update on what we have previously announced in regard to our collaboration in China with Hipro Biotechnology, and of course, it's also an update in regard to the last quarter. Before I go into details of all of that, I just wanted to make a short status of Qlife. Because I think the company is actually in a very interesting position. We have spent the past 3-4 years developing the EcoHealth system. And today the system is, in my mind, really a very high-tech in vitro diagnostic system that can measure clinical grade biomarkers in full blood from your home. And of course, the key feature of that is that you can do it by yourself in your home. So there's no need for a professional person to be involved. I believe EcoHealth is the only system in the world today which, as a platform for immunodiagnostic analysis, is close to being approved for that purpose of self-testing in your home. Of course, you can say there are glucose meters and other small devices that are used in your home, but these have been used for many years, but they are not versatile platforms that can measure a range of relevant antibody-based protein biomarkers. So I think we have something very special there. And at the same time, Qlife today is a company consisting of only 12 people, 12 very skilled people, I would say, that can operate all aspects of the platform. When we were at the height of the company during COVID, we were around 75 people. So today we are really down to the very core group. So the point I would like to make here first is that the EcoHealth system is an extremely advanced stage, and we believe plays into some very interesting society trends where there's a big need for decentralizing patient care. And at the same time, our cost structure and burn rate is quite low compared to the level of high-tech system that we have. So you can say, although the journey has been somewhat long, and sometimes a little bit challenging, I could say, I believe the company is in a better position than ever to capitalize on the assets that we have and all the emerging home diagnostic trends that we see out there today. Now, in terms of the Hipro partnership that we have entered, when we did it, we together with Hipro, we structured it into these 4 categories that I have mentioned here and that we have announced previously: integration of reagents between their reagents and our system, then regulatory, of course, in China, and then distribution and sales, and eventually also production of the system. Now, for the past few months since we entered the agreement, we have been very focused on integrating the reagents, testing them, and of course, the only way you can really find out whether that works is to create a lot of data. And on the right-hand side, as you can see here, I have listed the data that we have created over the past 2 months, and which is really the conclusion of what we have achieved. And if you look at the data, I don't know how much the viewers are into it, but it's actually really extremely excellent data. Of course, I have not included everything, but 2 of the important parameters is linearity and precision of the assays, the CV the so-called CV values. And on the right-hand side, there's the general performance requirement in order to be an approved product. And we are well beyond those, or well within those criteria. And, the data here is really similar to what would come out of a central laboratory. So it's really, really good data. That has a lot to do with the reagents from Hipro, which is very well proven. They worked on them for a long time. And we, of course, has worked on our system. So together, it's really amazing to see that it works so brilliantly. So from here on, we will move forward. So that's a milestone that we have achieved. We announced that last week, that we consider that milestone done. So now it's forwards towards regulatory. That means there are some things that need to be administratively done. The company Qlife, we are in a process of setting up a subsidiary in Beijing. We need to have some communication with the authorities over there. And at the same time, Hipro is preparing similarly to get started on this in a more structured way. And that means eventually going towards running, protocols, as we call them, all the analytical data, and then further into clinical trials, and eventually submitting to the authorities for an approval. So that's what we are starting on now, but really, really nice to have the basis done, so to speak, so we can move towards the bigger goals. Now, the milestones that I just talked about, has basically encouraged the partnership. So that we have decided, instead of just focusing on what we originally intended to be 3 biomarkers, we have increased the collaboration to now focus on 5 to 7 biomarkers. And originally it was the idea to only focus within cardiovascular diseases, but now we have also included inflammation, diabetes, and stroke. So those are areas that those are all very big areas, and instead of just sort of focusing on one, we are now being a little bit ambitious together with Hipro, or rather they are being much more ambitious, because those are the ones, that have to take them to the market in China, and they would like to do that. And of course, we are fully behind that. And just to give you a little bit of data on the markets that we are addressing, I mentioned here on the right-hand side the cardiovascular diseases. There are 523 million people worldwide living with that disease. And to put it in perspective, in China, approximately half of those are coming out of China. In terms of inflammation, you could say the market is valued at 647 million. Increasing to around 1 billion, or 918 million in 2030s. And in China, 1/3 of the market exists there. Diabetes, which of course is an overwhelming disease, 529 million people worldwide is living with diabetes. And a number that actually surprised me is that the biggest market, or the country having the most diabetes people, is actually China with 141 million. India is number 2, just to put in perspective, with 74. I believe the United States is around 35 million. So very big market. Stroke, 12.2 million strokes per year worldwide, and in China over 2 million new cases annually. So those are all extremely extremely big markets. And of course, it doesn't mean that we will get access or sell to all those people initially. But the point of working with Hipro, besides all the other facts that I mentioned, is really that we are addressing a very large market, and a market where there's a very big need for decentralizing healthcare and move patients away from the hospital and keep them in the homes. And within these 4 disease fields, there's definitely a lot of patient treatment and patient monitoring to be done in new ways. When you put Hipro and Qlife together, as we have done a little bit, and focusing so intensely on the Chinese market, you could say the way I see it is that although we are only 12 people, as I mentioned in the beginning, we are estimating that at the Hipro side, there are approximately maybe 40 people focusing entirely on the EcoHealth platform. So together, we are actually quite a lot of people now working to make this happen. And I can also say that, generally speaking, 12 people for an ISO 13485 IVDR NASDAQ listed company is simply not enough really to go through and get products on the market. But together with Hipro, we suddenly become an entity with some strengths, putting together both sides' strengths. And you could say Hipro is really excellent in bringing products forward in China into regulatory approvals. They've done that a lot in the past, so we have some degree of confidence that they can do that again. And all of that data that they're generating over there actually can be used in the UK initially, which is our focus here in Europe, because UK is still under, you could say they're still basically following the old IVDD because of Brexit. So that means that you can self-declare stills in the UK. So as soon as we have technical files, we can put products, or we can register the product in the UK and put it on the market there. And at the same time, we can file in the EU with some slight modifications. We can submit to our notified body. And you know, once that is done, it's really a matter of waiting until it's approved. So through this partnership, one thing is China, but another thing is that we suddenly is accessing Europe and UK, and you know, with a relatively broad portfolio of biomarker tests, which I think actually is quite amazing that we are capable of doing that. And of course, the third sort of leg that we are standing on together is the cost structure of the products. I believe we have gained probably around 5 to 10 years in terms of costs down by working with Hipro, because those cost pricing that they are focused on, and which is a necessity to achieve really to be able to sell in China, is amazingly low. And obviously that gives us quite a competitive edge elsewhere, as you know, as well, that we can sell at pricing which is quite attractive. So I think there's a lot of advantages to this collaboration, and of course, because of that, our forecasts are quite aggressive, as we also have announced previously. And it's really a matter of finalizing all the things I just talked about and getting started on that journey. So for us here in the near term, the key actions forward in 2024 is to get started on production of some of the key components of the EcoHealth system. Right now we are, besides the data integration, we are focused on production of our blood to plasma that we call EcoCollect. That is started, and there are some, you know, molds and other kind of things that needs to be done, so they eventually can be produced over there. After that comes the capsules and eventually also the device. What we have learned is that obviously some of the components for each of these things are, you know, some of the key components are actually quite difficult to manufacture. So I think overall it will take maybe, you know, some time, years, before we see that the actual complete system is manufactured in China. Some of them are, as I said, very difficult to manufacture. It requires a very high level of skills and machinery, so that will take time. And we will continue to produce that here and then transfer over there and slowly integrate the product. So it will take time, and that actually fits us quite well, so that we go step by step and, you know, see how things develop. And the next step is, of course, the clinical studies and the approval, as I already talked about. And then eventually we hope to have products on the market towards the end of this year during Q4. That's really our target, to have products market cleared in China, and that we can start to see actual sales end of 24. That's going to be very important for us.
So Thomas, if I can interrupt you just a second, because there's a lot of information.
Yeah.
So you expect to have sales in place during Q4 this year, but will you and Hybro bring all 5 to 7 tests to the market, or what is your plan so far? What are we going to see? You have the CRP ready in Europe, I know. What else can we expect from you?
Yeah, so the really big focus for Hybro besides CRP is NT-proBNP, which is a heart marker for congestive heart failure. Basically, if you have a weak heart and it's degenerating, it's a very important biomarker, and a lot of people have that. And then it's HbA1c, which is the diagnosis for type 2 diabetes. Very well-known biomarker, but still, you know, I thought many years ago that A1c would be out, but it's actually because you saw other types of devices, continuous glucose monitoring and others. But actually it's gone quite opposite. A1c is more important than ever, and used extremely a lot. So those are the 3 ones that we hope to be able to see on the market end of this year, and which definitely there's a big need for. And then the other ones, will follow over the next quarter or so. That's the plan.
Okay, so a full CFDA approval of those 3.
Yes.
And you and by that you also expect to fix the small issues in UK. So you're ready to launch them in UK. It's not like you're not working in UK, but with an approval, you are able to enter the B2B market.
Exactly. Yes.
Yes.
And that's yes.
Just a final question, Thomas. When we talk about, you announced this very important milestone Friday, and congratulations with that. But in terms of milestone payments, could you please update us either now or later in your presentation? Because as I remember, the payments are more related to sales than to technical and other issues. Isn't that true, Thomas?
Yeah, that is correct. I mean, there's no direct payments involved between Hybro and us. Each side is carrying their expenses, and you could say that indirectly Hybro is investing extremely a lot into this system because it's very expensive to get it approved. These are essentially all the expenses that we can no longer really afford. Here in Europe, it has proven to be extremely expensive and require a lot of people, as I talked about. So they take all those expenses, and then we can sort of use the same over here. So it's indirect investment. I can mention here, of course, the company is still working on other partnerships, and I would expect our next partnership to be a financed partnership, meaning that there would be potentially, upfront payments and milestones payments, etc., etc. That's the normal structure that you would target, but which lately has been extremely difficult because big IVD companies are not really investing so much anymore in non-revenue companies. And that's, of course, so that's why we have taken this way to get to the revenue side through Hybro, and then eventually for the rest of the world, partner with, some of the really big IVD companies potentially.
Interesting, Thomas. Please carry on.
Yeah. So this slide here is kind of a center slide for what I'm talking about, because one thing that I have learned over the years, and obviously new, is that having a good finance plan is important. And I think with the latest rights issue that we have launched and which is running right now, we have along all the activities that I've been talking about here, this rights issue is going to finance us until the point where the company have revenues and also profitability. So that's what we are targeting with the current rights issue, and that's why it is structured so that the proceeds that is received from the ongoing subscription will take the company until end of June, where we have structured so that there is the so-called tegningsoption 4, TO4, which is a warrant, which is potentially can be exercised at a relatively quite low value, I would say. And that will take the company further until December, where there is TO5, which will take the company in an additional 6 months and until the revenues and profitability that we hopefully at that time should see with together with Hipro in China and elsewhere. So that's the plan. And I think, you know, we've been through a few rights issues before, and it has been somewhat a struggle to get to this point, but I'm quite satisfied that we have this plan here, because it seems realistically to get to the point where we see these revenues and profitability from China with all the things I talked about. That should be possible. Yeah, we are quite happy with that. I listed some of the details of the rights issue here. Of course, you can read it on the website, etc. But the point of the matter, I think, is that if everything I'm talking about here is successful, I would go as far as saying that this is a very attractive offer. The market value of Qlife compared to the technology that we have and the needs that we address, I think is an attractive offer. So I hope people would see it the same way and support the company during this journey. And I have permitted myself a little bit along the lines of talking financing plan. Normally, I don't comment on, you know, competing companies because I think it's not appropriate. But in this case here, I have actually included some of the peers that we over the years have compared with. Typically American companies that obviously are financed at a completely different level. But I think there are some characteristics which have proven to be similar, and where there have also, you know, been some actions that were absolutely necessary to take for the companies, otherwise they were in trouble. And the ones I have included here is Lucira, who had a small COVID disposable test targeted for home diagnostics. Very nice product in a way. They grew extensively under COVID and invested extremely a lot. But once COVID was gone, they also had an extremely high burn rate, and eventually it was unsustainable for them. They came into a bad situation and was eventually picked up by Pfizer for a relatively small amount of money. Lumira Diagnostics, we have recently seen, not really a competitor to us because they are focused more on point of care, decentralized diagnostics, where we are a home diagnostic platform, but nevertheless, interesting platform, little bit the same characteristic, grew extremely a lot, do have a nice portfolio of tests, but also suddenly a burn rate extremely high, and clearly was in trouble here lately, and was again picked up by one of the big ones for although a good amount, probably an amount that really just went into paying off all the creditors. So two companies that had interesting technology but did not really have a financing plan that was really very good. Q Health, the company the most we probably have compared us with over the years, because we came from the same starting point and always had the same vision of bringing clinical grade biomarker testing into the homes of people. They then went into the the area of the pandemics. We did also a little bit, but they grew very much And again, a little bit the same. It'd be interesting to see in the future how they will manage their very high burn. And I think compared to all of that, and that's my point, I actually think that Qlife during the pandemic has been able to, first of all, develop this very high-tech platform. And secondly, we have our OPEX under control. So we have all our expenses under control. We are a relatively low burn organization today with a very interesting product, as I think it. And we have the right partnership, and we have a financing plan forward to revenues and profitability. So that's what we are targeting to execute on. There are lots of lessons learned on the way from our peers and from ourselves, and certainly has been very interesting, but I'm very optimistic about that we can be successful with this. Now, for those of you that have not actually seen the system in operation, I thought this was a good time to actually show it. So I know that we have a little video maybe we can show.
It's coming here.
Yeah. And I took this because I wanted, maybe you guys have seen it already on the website, but just wanted to show you how simple the system is to use. You enter a drop of blood into our Eco Collect, blood to plasma filtration. You close it, and 90 seconds later, you have a clean plasma sample when the indicator C turns green. Now he pulls out a small capillary filled with 5 microliter of plasma, which is then entered into the capsule, in this case CRP, for inflammation and infections. And then using the smartphone app, you open and enter the capsule. You then read the barcode. The system connects to the cloud and downloads the algorithm. During the analysis, it communicates with the cloud several times in order to upload and download data. And after, in this case, 10 minutes here, the analysis is done. We want people to discard the used capsule and then close it, and then you have the clinical grade data on your phone, which then can be transferred, into a middleware or into your doctor's office or whatever you wanna bring it. And of course, the system works both online and offline because it's not always smart to be online, so it works both ways. I think it's very simple, and I think a lot of people that have these diseases that we talk about should be able to do that. And I think we can help, the healthcare system a lot with allowing people to do data at that level in their home. So my last slide here today is just to summarize a little bit that the EcoHealth vision, it always has and always will be to democratize access to clinical grade data in your home. We are very much focused on home hospital and helping patients to stay in their home. Although they are admitted to a hospital, they can stay in their home for as long as possible. So that's our focus, target market. We're going to be there for some years, but eventually we hope that we can go so-called B2B2C, so that eventually ordinary people will be taught and understand how this system works and how you can actually generate your own clinical data. We believe it empowers people to understand their health and enables a certain quality of life. And of course, it is really all about prevention, so being able to prevent disease, going from reactive care to a proactive care. That's obviously another way to say it, and that's really our purpose. That was all for me, and thank you for listening.
Thanks a lot, Thomas, for a thorough presentation. And it's always good when you bring a video.
Yeah, I think so.
And it really shows how easy it is to operate your system, and also this proprietary technique with the blood plasma. I think you're quite unique in that sense.
Yes.
So with that said, we open up for questions, and just to get back to the hybrid deal and milestones and so on, Thomas, can you elaborate a little on what we should see in terms of royalty payments, though? Is it double digit, or what are we talking about?
Yeah, we have openly said it's 20% royalty. So we think that's a good royalty level. and we chosen kind of say that it's royalty because at the end of the day, we do expect Hipro to be able to produce everything in China, and then that makes most sense. There could be some intermediary models while we produce some of the things over here. But that's what it is, and we're quite satisfied with that.
Yeah, and you also mentioned early on in other presentations that if you reach or you come above certain targets, you can even increase your royalty rate. Isn't that true?
That's correct, yes. So it could be even better.
And then a couple of questions regarding the ongoing rights issue. Depending, of course, on the outcome, but do you already see now such big interest that you're able to close the issue before time?
To be honest, I don't know. I haven't actually asked our advisor how it's going, so I don't know. But I will definitely do that. Of course, the issue is guaranteed up to a certain level, but obviously we hope that we can go up to the 100%. That would be extremely helpful. So that's the target, but I don't know at this stage.
Yeah, good. And if you don't reach the 100%, do you have a plan B to fulfill your plans in terms of 2025 and the chart you showed in the presentation?
Definitely. I mean, you can essentially say that we can get through at the level that the emission is guaranteed. That's the plan B. So we know we can get through, but definitely it would be nice to be somewhat higher, so we can also do some of the things that otherwise would have to be cut off.
Good, Thomas. Then there's a good question here. Well, you have put a lot of equities on the market the last couple of years. You showed how your burn rate is compared to a certain group of peers. But this participant is asking about share buybacks. I think it's a little early. You're still in the growth phase, but you could do other things like reverse split. Have you thought about these things, Thomas?
Yeah, we have, as a matter of fact. I would say buyback is too early for us. We are not in a position to be able to do that. But a reverse split is something that we considered a lot before this emission, because we are getting into kind of very high share numbers, which looks a little bit strange, but it's the way it is. We didn't do it because we studied the data around companies that have done a reverse split, and the trend post the reverse split was that you would slide back to where you came from, unless you could announce something really significant. So it's actually not a good thing to do unless you have something very, very significant. So I guess you could say that we probably will do that at some point, but we will do it at the right moment.
So a significant event, if I interpret it on that could be the CFDA approval of the 3 assays.
It could be that, yes, or it could be a finance partnership at the very high, with a lot of millions involved. Something really good for the company, then it could make sense to restructure. And of course, a reverse split just means that, that it wouldn't really affect anyone. It would just kind of clean up the capital structure.
Yes.
So at that point, it could make sense to do that.
That's right. And then in terms of your recently published full year 2003 report, so all things equal, if we as we understand the partnership with Hipro, as described in the announcement in December, and this major write-down you took in the full year report, is that merely a technical formal issue, or is there anything else in this impairment test process?
I think it has a lot to do with the current stage of how small growth companies are audited, which is tougher and tougher, so to speak. And the issue was really that our market price, which obviously is very low compared to our equity value, which is somewhat higher because we have a lot of capitalized development costs, which obviously we consider our investment. and which is something we hope, obviously, we can capitalize on and create much more market value for the company. But that was an issue, and long story short, the auditors did not accept that we had that, so we had to write it down, which I think is completely unfair, because it's a long discussion, but it really goes to the heart of how do you then create growth companies, and are they nothing worth? What's the perspective, etc., potential. But that's how it is today, and we had that discussion for a long period, and at the end we had to give in, and that's just the way it is.
I fully understand, and you at least have a capital plan in place, which is very important for growth companies nowadays.
Exactly. Yes.
I don't know if there's other questions out there, so please post the questions, and Thomas will do his best to answer them. I don't think there's a lot of other questions. Well, that's fine, Thomas. Let's call it a day. First of all, I will, of course, thank you, Thomas, for a very good presentation, and all the good questions from the audience. And with that said, I would like to cut off the presentation, and hope everybody will have a very good Monday. So thanks a lot, and enjoy your day.